Josh Green here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by Spencer Oliver here in London. Spencer, big day today with Ben Whittaker, Liam Cameron announced. Yeah. Exciting times.
Absolutely. Listen, great fight, innit? I mean, the controversy that surrounded the last one sort of makes this fight even more interesting much more interesting than the first one was ever. You know, I think that for Ben Whittaker, it's all about now righting the wrongs of that last fight. Only he knows what happened, by the way, in that one. You know, the controversy surrounding that. Did he pull him over the ropes? Could he have got back in the ring? Could he have continued? Only Ben Whittaker knows that, and he's got that chance now to right the wrongs of that fight. It's great to get it on. We love a little bit of controversy surrounding a fight. To use like Jules Groves, Cold Frotch, you know, that first fight they had in the MEN and the fight getting stopped controversially the way that it did in that 9th round. You just looked at that and that created, you know, much more interest in the second fight. And we've got a similar sort of thing, and on different magnitude here, obviously, but a similar sort of thing here where you go now, Ben Whittaker, is he the real deal? Is he what we thought he was going to be? You know, even though there was all that talk about him being the best prospect globally at one stage, you know, and now a little bit of controversy, and he's got to go over it. But I'm glad we got the fight. You know, it's a great chance for Cameron, because with Liam Cameron now, what Ben Whittaker's got now is a newfound confidence in Liam Cameron. Cameron was meant to be the guy there that was, you know, all about the development of Ben Whittaker. He was just put there to give Whittaker the rounds and whatnot, and he tore up the scripts, and fair play to him. You know, the fight was starting, turning on its head. He was doing great in that, and since then, you know, he's done really, really well. You know, you look at like the Lyndon Arthur fight where he pushed Lyndon all the way and in a great contest. Signing up now with Queensbury, starting to do Queensbury broadcasts and all that sort of stuff to elevate him, to give him a taste of that life. And that changes a fighter and elevates him to another level. So, although it's a rematch, we've got a new fight on our hands, because both guys have got to deal with different things. If Whittaker was injured, then he hasn't got to overcome those demons. He'll just go in there and try to right the wrongs. And if he wasn't injured and he was looking for a way out, now he's got to overcome them demons and go in there and try and right the wrongs. So, yeah, interesting fight.
From a fighter's point of view, how much does what happened in the first fight, when you go into a rematch and you take into account all the controversy, how much does that play into the mentality going into a rematch?
It plays massively, like as in, on the psychological side of things with a fighter. You look at Ben Whittaker and you say, right, listen, that's what I'm saying, only Ben Whittaker knows. So I'm talking from a fighter's perspective. You look at the fight and the way that it was turning and the way that it ended that controversially. If he was legitimately injured, then he hasn't got any demons to overcome, has he? He can just go in there and go, right, let me right the wrongs of this one. I'll go in there and I'll correct it. Maybe I took him too lightly. The fight was getting a little bit tough. You know, Cameron was growing into the fight. You go, but if it was a case of him going over and him going, well, do you know what? This is a great chance. The fight's starting to not go my way. It's a great chance for me to get out. Then he's got big problems, isn't he? So like I say, only he knows that. And we find that, we will only find that out on the 20th. So there's a lot of psychological stuff obviously going on there, but like Liam Cameron will be a different fighter himself to the one that went in there the first time, because he'll have a newfound confidence. It's a great fight.
It's been a big week of fight announcements. Obviously earlier this week we saw Dillian Whyte against Joyce announced along with everything else on that card. I want to ask you about the fight in terms of Whyte and Joyce, but I want to ask you about sort of the tactics in the press conference as well. There was a lot of sort of jokes towards Joyce's slowness and stuttering. Yeah. Do you think that's a tactic or a conversation that should be used in a fight with somebody who's seemingly going through that? Listen,
Joyce is not great at interviews, not great at doing press conferences. So I think it's a little bit of a cheap shot to, you know, use that as the thing, like taking the piss out of Joe and maybe, you know, his lack of ability to put a sentence together. But it is what it is, man. It's the fight game, and fighters will do whatever they can to get in the other guy's head. Did it work? No, I don't think it did. Is it a great fight? Yes, it is, because they're both at that stage of their career. I think for the loser, there's nowhere to go. It's the end of the road. And for the winner, obviously, he can kick on and get himself back into contention. Joyce coming off that defeat against Derek Chisora, you look at it and go, I'm starting to worry now, you know, after the two Zhang losses. Then the Chisora one, you just go, has Joe got old overnight? Because he's not a young heavyweight anyway. And, like, you know, is it one of those that he is now deteriorating? And you go for Dillian Whyte, he hasn't looked great either. He didn't look good last time out. Do you know what I mean? He did not look good last time out. So you just look at it and go, right, it's a really interesting fight because it's a chance for one to keep their career alive, and for the other one, it's done.
I've seen Dillian Whyte. It's a fairly heavy favourite going into that fight, which actually surprised me.
Well,
you?
No, well, listen, yeah, it surprises you because, rewind before the Zhale Zhang fight, and then we're talking about this is the guy that could be beating Tyson Fury at the time. Fury was the king. After his performance against Joseph Parker back in September 2022, you looked at that performance and you go, this guy could beat anyone. He's so big, so strong, takes such a good shot. 2 defeats back-to-back by Zhale Zhang, and a loss to Derek Chisora. Now we're going, he's a huge underdog against Dillian Whyte. It's insane, mate. That's the way the heavyweight landscape moves. You're only as good as your last fight. And they were both quite poor in their last fight, so it's a chance for them to reignite their careers, both of them. It's a good fight for that reason.
You mentioned Tyson Fury there. When our very own Radio Raheem spoke to Frank Warren earlier in the week, he said that there was a big announcement just round the corner from Tyson Fury. Do you have any sort of inkling of what that could be and maybe what you would like it to be as well?
Well, what would I like it to be? I'd like it to be that Tyson Fury's coming back. He's boxing Anthony Joshua. We get it at Wembley Stadium in the all-British heavyweight fight that we always wanted. I don't care if there's any titles on the line. It's all about modern legacies, the best fighting the best. And we've always, as boxing fans, wanted AJ versus Fury. Whether whether people say AJ's past his best, Fury's past his bed, it's a fight that we need to see, in this modern era. So let's hope that's the announcement, eh? I mean, let's hope that's what it is. Yeah.
We talked about fighters when they retire and what they go through and sort of the options and the different roads that they can go down. You've obviously kept yourself very busy post-retirement. Is there a worry that Tyson Fury will go down some of the rabbit holes that he's been down before if he's not able to come back and doesn't want to come back to boxing?
Well, I think that for Fury, boxing's always been his focus. That's always been his discipline. I think life without boxing is always going to be hard for Tyson Fury. He struggles with bipolar, and I think that he struggles with depression, and I think that boxing gives him that sanity. And he's been a great ambassador for the sport, and I think he's been a great servant of the sport as well, and he's given us many brilliant nights. And he's always going to be remembered for that. He's a very charismatic guy outside of the ring, and he delivers inside the ring. All right, he's lost twice back-to-back to Alexander Usyk, but he's the best of our modern generation. Usyk may go down as one of the all-time greats in boxing. You look at it and you look at what he's achieved in this era, and you go, well, no shame in that. 2 good fights against Usyk. But, yeah, for Tyson Fury, there's always a worry about life after boxing because of his struggles outside of the sport with his mental health. So let's just hope that he can find something to focus on, whether that's getting into training himself, getting into managing, helping direct young kids in, or getting them off the streets or whatever it is, because I think that Tyson's been great for the sport of boxing for sure.
Spencer, really appreciate the time. Enjoy the 100-metre walk home, and I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate.